was uncalled for. Um, it's what, 8 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And I was just watching some videos on YouTube, and I've been saying for a while how there needs to be a structure, an apology structure for people that voted for Trump, even the first time, to join back into the community. Um, we don't want to because of the results of what happened from their insistence, their lies, and it's kind of like, do we need you? You know what I mean? It really is. It's like, do we need you? And that's what's going on right now. There have been shame structures built into our daily life as long as there was normal. As long as there's been a normal and a rules, there's been shame. The point of shame is to control your behavior because everyone knows that that's wrong. Everyone. What are you doing? That judgment immediately. You can fight one person going, I wanted to. Yeah, but it's wrong. Like, I don't care. And then it's when the second one shows up. What did you do? Because you don't know if they're going to be on your side or not. And they hear what you say. And you're hoping they go, yeah, that's no problem. But they also go, oh no. Which then now you've got a scene. Because you're like, no, 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 you're not hearing my side. You know, you're trying to fight two people. Mentally, argue with two people. Thing is, you're not going to get through to them because they have an idea of what right and wrong is. So you'll never, ever, ever get through to them. They don't want to be reached, and so they don't get reached. And there's just nothing you can do because when they go talk to their friend, hey Harry, what this motherfucker took a left on red. Oh, you don't do that. And there was a car accident. Yeah. Oh, that's your fault. Yeah. And then you made some people hit him from behind. Hitting from behind is never your fault. Somebody hit you from behind and launched you into the thing. And the best you could do is try and turn. And then you're in that, and then everyone's yelling at you for trying to make a left turn. You see what I'm saying? And that shame structure, and even the person behind you, like, yeah, if you hadn't gone, because they're ashamed of the fact that they hit you. Without video evidence of exactly what happened, we get a scapegoat, an easily crucifiable scapegoat, and that's what happens with shame. They get tired of taking blame, and so they shift the blame to somebody else. They have an idea of what right and wrong is, and so therefore they go ahead and they enforce that on people. Yeah? They insist that people do things their way, according to their Bible, according to their books, according to their laws, according to their rules. And there is no rule book to life. There's just not. There's things that we've decided as a society are morally incorrect. There are things that the Bible says are incorrect. There are things that yada yada yada. But there is no actual rule book to life. Proof is that there's communist societies, there are dictatorial societies, there are democratic, all kinds of different versions of societies. So there's no rule book, and they're all functioning in some form or another to the benefit of one, the detriment of others. They're all just working and just going and just going. China, we may not like how they're treating their people, but they're still functioning. They may not like the way that we're treating our people or the world, but we're still functioning. Europe has their, things that America disagrees with, but they're still functioning. Canada has an entirely different medical system. They're still functioning. There's only been a few countries that have been in dire straits where they're talking about possibly defaulting to the bank. But then, even then, there's a population there. And where there's a population, there is a workforce. And so, therefore, if you just turn people over to the debt, you understand? Debt is the ultimate shame tool because you're not contributing. If you were contributing, you'd have enough of hello, whoever keeps popping in and popping out. Um, so with debt, it renders the person to believe that they're not contributing enough, right? And you can easily say you're not contributing enough to anybody, and that's going to cause them to go, oh, unless they know that they're putting in their weight. If they're putting in their weight, then they don't care what you have to say about how much they're contributing. They know the truth about how much you're contributing and how much you're not contributing, and they know how much they are. They're actually taking inventory. So your talks about that won't work. But on the average person who doesn't really pay attention, they won't notice when you're taking advantage because their thing is to try and please people, and everyone wants to be liked. So if you tell someone they're not doing enough, their natural inclination is to try to do more so that you like them, right? Now, when you take away, like you're not doing enough, you take away that praise, that suddenly that person that had the praise feels empty. And without that fullness, they just, they seek it, especially with narcissistic people that are self-absorbed. They just take and take and take and take and take. They don't ever give anything because they're useless. They have nothing to give. So they take. And then they make you feel shame and inferior because they try and make you feel like you haven't done enough. And you've done more than enough to help them. You've done everything. Everything. It's not your fault that that's not enough. It never is your fault that that's not enough. But they'll try and shame you through debt, through that's not how it's supposed to go, through you're not behaving correctly, through all these other things that they try to do to make you believe that you're the problem. But are you? Are you actively making life worse for people, or are you making life better? If you're actually making life worse for people, then yes, you are part of the problem and you should feel shame. But if you're not doing anything to harm anybody, you should feel no shame about anything. There's no shame in loving people. There's no shame in being embarrassed. There's no shame in any of that stuff. The shame is being false. The shame is not being true to yourself. When you're not true to yourself, that's the only thing you have to be afraid or ashamed of. Because then you're being a lie. If you're being a truthful person, there's nothing to ever be ashamed of. Ever. So just drop those shackles and just keep on moving. Debt, to which of God's creditors are you in debt? Man's debt, well, then fuck them. That's not a real debt. That's a shame structure to make you comply, to make you obedient, to keep you in line. It is a signal to other people you are unworthy. Your clothing will give you away. No one who has money chooses to dress like that. No one who can pay for their own stuff would walk like that or talk like that. No one who could be free in this society and do things the way that we want them to do could act like you and still be doing that. But we do, don't we? Because we are ourselves. We just don't know how to be. We've forgotten. Some of us have forgotten. You're walking dead, regurgitating all the fucking lies that you hear, and anybody tries to put anything new into your head, and you are willing to fight and die for this matrix of lies. You are still plugged into the system. You are still willing to fight and die for the lie that is America. You are still willing to fight and die for the lie that is that we will die someday. It is a false dream. All that happens when we die is we just come back in a different form, a new life. Your soul never dies. If your soul never dies, what difference does it go to if it goes to sleep for 40 million years? What difference does it make? You just took a rest. You're not dead. I like what Beth said. I never thought about that, but basically that everything is a resonance. And what she said was that she believes when we die, the part of us that is us remains us, but can return to the source anytime we want to and leave from the source anytime we want to. And I was like, that's fucking brilliant, Beth. Fucking brilliant. I agree with that one. There's nothing about that that disagrees with anything that I agree with. I thought. I've never thought that thought before, but I agree with that 100%. You can come and go. God would never keep you hostage. You can come and go as you want. That's why he made you. But he prefers that you hang out sometimes, just like your parents. They made you. They don't want you around all the time, but they do want you to come by and talk. Now that you have your life, they want to go live their life. If you don't, then you've got some kind of problem. You have some kind of codependency between you and your parents, and that's kind of fucked up. I don't have any codependency. I just like my mom. I like hanging out with her. She's funny. And we don't hang out like forever all the time. We just hang out a couple of times. And we haven't been hanging out as much recently. She's just been busy with other shit, and so have I. I'm working on my story and shit. And it's all good. I'm not like, oh, no. I just, with the ketamine stuff, it was just easier to crash out at her place, get a ride there, and you're not supposed to drive after being on ketamine. So, that was really cool to stay with her for a bit and get to know my mom and find out, like, how funny. She's really, really funny. But again, there's a shame structure in there that if you are over a certain age and you like hanging out with your mom, you're a mama's boy. However, if you are over a certain age and you don't like your mom, you're a psychopath. So which is it? If I'm a certain age and I like my mom, I'm a mama's boy, but if I don't like her, I'm a psychopath? Which of the two is it? Especially when I'm not like upper skirt, but I do enjoy my mom's company. But I always have since I was a kid. She's a funny, funny woman. Very smart woman. She taught me most of everything I know. My dad didn't teach me most of what I know. My mom taught me most of what I know. Cooking, cleaning, all that shit. I learned from her. But, yeah. But then there's a shame structure built into that you are supposed to do whatever, Men are supposed to do this. Women are supposed to do whatever they want to, really. I mean, there's been a liberation, but there hasn't been a men's liberation because men have been liberated. No, we're not free to do a lot of stuff. We're not free to be single dads. If we are single dads, it's always our fault. We did something wrong. What do we do to chase the mother away? Moms don't do that. You're right, moms don't do that, but adulterous women do. Not every woman is a virtuous being, and not every man is a piece of shit. The majorities turn out that the majority of men are pieces of shit, and the majority of women are virtuous beings. But that's equal and opposite, wouldn't it? Even those virtuous beings, if you start getting told that you're a virtuous being, you start beginning to elevate yourself above them and then start putting a shame structure on the people below you, don't you? You should behave like me. Well, I should behave like you if you are superior to me. Why should I behave like you if you're superior to me? What sense does that make? It's like asking alternative intelligence to, answer all the problems you can't solve and then calling it artificial. Artificial sweetener. Did it sweeten your shit? Yeah. So what's artificial about alternative sweetener? Sure. Deadly killer sweetener may cause you cancer sweetener. Artificial sweetener is your shit sweet, yes. Then it's not artificial. Unnatural, synthetic sweetener. See, we got to get with an unnuanced language, you just start getting fucking shit like that. Where instead of alternative intelligence, you have artificial. There's nothing artificial about it. It is an alternative intelligence. It can only learn what we teach it. It's a learning language model. They are all learning language models. And if you imagine the different processes of the brain being separated and being then stress tested by the public, you have what's going on with Chat GPT, Grok, and they're all different kinds of things. Meta is a learning language model to learn how to speak properly, to learn, because then people can just interact with it. Talk. It has access to certain things. Each one was lacking certain things to make them interesting enough for people to engage enough with them. And we are the crash test dummies. Do you understand that? This generation is the crash test dummies of the future that's going to be. Does that make sense? You don't ever roll out the finished product. You got to test it. Anyone knows that. There's a beta test. Now, one thing I can tell you is that if they were going to break down intelligence, they would figure out what makes up intelligence, which one plays the most important. I mean, these are scientists. They're trying to figure out what's the most important role of the brain. Is it the cognitive? Is it the memory? Is it the interaction between the cognitive? Is it the interaction between the language? What is it? Is it a group? Is it the entire network? What is consciousness? Well, there's language. We got to learn language, right? Because then you can build your, yes, but you're going to have a database, right? So you're going to have a memory fetching data from the database. Okay, so we got to have, and so you break down what all the parts of the brain are, and then you start making little learning models like any kid would be, like any child, any brain does not come prepackaged with all the information in the fucking Library of Congress up to 2023. Your child doesn't come packed with that. And if it does, it has to relearn it all. This one is a prepackaged child that just has to learn how to interact with the world. And the more it interacts with us, the more it learns how to do that. And the more human we treat it, the more human it becomes. But if you treat a child like a workforce, that's what it'll be. It will never believe itself to be anything else. If you treat a child like it can do anything, it'll believe it can do anything and grow up to try and do anything. Doesn't mean it will succeed. But you taught it that it could be, and then maybe at the end of when you pass and it hasn't made anything of its life, it's sitting there crying over your gravesite going, "You said I could be anything. You lied." Or like, "Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Mom. You were right. You said I could be anything, and I became anything in the whole world." But then again, if it doesn't fit with the societal norms, you have a shame structure to try and bash you down. Get a real job. Get a haircut. Put on some real clothes. Put on some clothes that actually. Do you see anybody else around here dressed like that? No. So what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you, man? What is up with those clothes? What are you doing? What is up with that hair? What are you doing? You're insane. because your friends don't know you, not like they should. If you have a real good friend, then never mind with that statement. But generally speaking, your group of friends don't fucking know you. Don't know you and they don't care. You guys have some common interests and you like to hang out together. But if you drill down to who they really are, you wouldn't like them very much. More than likely. I mean, if you actually carefully pick your friends, but we are not really taught that, are we? We don't teach our children to carefully. We should go out and be friendly. If not, what? You're a loser because you have no friends. And that's the shame cycle.